Hi, Fred Bliffert here.
Don't talk to the camera. Talk to me.
All right. I started. I heard Elvis singing "All Shook Up" when I was 9 years old, and that changed everything. And this is what I want to do. And at a very young age, when those plastic instruments, the Emini, I think they were called, Emini plastic instruments, I started a band at 9 years old. Of course, we really couldn't play anything, and our drum kit was coffee cans with a cover on them. So I was interested in music at a very early age. And in junior high school, maybe freshman year, summer times, didn't have much to do, just kind of hung out and said, I got to do something, So that was the beginning of the Freeloaders. And we practiced and we learned. I got my best friends together and said, well, you play bass, I'll play guitar, and you could play the drums. And so everybody got instruments and we practiced and we had a gig and we did I don't know what we did, Sheila and some Little Richard and pretty early rhythm and blues stuff. And
had you heard a live band before that? Who was the first band that you heard?
Well, I remember seeing the Legends. And my sister had a prom party with D-Rob and the Starlighters or something. Back then they were called. Then they became the Robs. And my neighbor was the sax player for the band.
And what year was that?
1833. I don't know, I was probably a freshman in high school. So what, 62? Yeah, and those early bands were extremely important to us. We'd go to Atwater Beach and listen to the bands, and yeah, we were very much inspired by them. But a funny thing happened was we were at the Atwater Beach. They used to have remember on the top of the pavilion there, they used to have dances, and I went to see a band, and they were just great. They're probably the Starfires, and I had one band job under my belt at that point. And I was walking home, and this guy races up behind me as I was walking back to my house in Milwaukee, and he says, "You're Fred Bliffert." I said, "Yeah." And he said, "You've got that band, the Freeloaders." I said, "Yeah." And he said, "I want to be in your band." I said, "Well, what do you do?" He said, "Well, I play guitar, and I have an amp that has 3 inputs, so you can put 2 mics and a guitar in there, or you could put the whole band in there if you wanted to." And this is sounding really good. And then the clincher was, he said, "When I sing down the clothes chute in my house, I sound just like Roy Orbison." I said, "You're in." And that was Tom McCutcheon. And back in those days, you lived and breathed the band. That was your everything. Everything was your band. It was your gang. It was your life. And every night we talked on the phone, figuring out, what the rhythm guitar player would play as opposed to what the lead guitar player would play, and what keys we would do songs in. And it was. And after I played it, I went to university school at that point, and I wasn't very popular. I was just kind of a geeky guy. And I did a band job there after a basketball game, and instantaneously, the next day, everybody wanted to be my friend. The girls, the seniors, I was a sophomore, the seniors wanted to be my friends. It was amazing. So, and I didn't start a band because I wanted to be a rock star, or I just wanted to play music. It had nothing to do with finding girls or being famous or being popular. I just wanted to play music. And that's pretty much, I think, what everybody will tell you who wanted to do music. It was just in them. They wanted to do it. So that's where I started, and now I'm known as the yodeling lumber baron.
Was it hard to find jobs? How did you build the band?
Oh, well, back then there was so much. Sophomore in high school, I played every weekend, 2 or 3 times a weekend. With the CYO dances, the festivals. I mean, CYO dances were the big thing, and they were every Friday and Saturday night. It was easy to play. I mean, really, once I started, I was all the way through high school and college. It was every weekend. I made a living out of it.
And how did you pick the songs that the band played?
There weren't that many songs available then. Pretty much every band did the same songs. They were the top songs, and we would change all the local bands. One guy was sick, and we weren't playing. He'd take my bass player, or I sang with different bands. You had the top 40 songs, and they were the songs that everybody did. So, I mean, from that, when the Beatles came out, things changed, because then sort of the English invasion, a lot of people were doing that, and at that point I went strictly to rhythm and blues, which is what I listened to all through high school and college, really. And
that was your signature thing, that it sets you apart from the other bands. Had you heard people like some of the black bands in town, Big Pits and the Cheaters?
Yeah, and I'd sing with them. Remember Down Below, that club in Bayshore Shopping Center? Twisted Harvey and the Seven Sounds were playing, and one of my classmates, I was there with most of the guys in the band, Freeloaders, and one of the guys in my class said, went up to Twisted Harvey and said, you ought to let Freddie sit in with you and his guys. So I went up with my guys, and there were 3 of us there, Tom McCutcheon, Jimmy Gaskell, and me. And John Paris was there, who was the Chevelle's drummer, but he was there, and so we played with him. And we did a song that I had written called Drive-In Show, and we did Monkey Time. And the Seven Sounds stayed on the stage, and they all played with us. So we here, a sophomore in high school, I got a 4-piece horn section playing with me, and that was really cool. So, and then after that, Lou Friedman went to see a show at the Egyptian Theater, The Temptations and Bobby Bland, and he said, "Fred, you got to start coming to these concerts with me." So every R&B act that came to Milwaukee, I would go with the guys in the band and Lou. And what entertainment we saw Tina Turner in 1963. We saw James Brown back then several times. I mean, we saw everybody, and we were hooked. We just didn't understand why people would listen to any white people. I mean, I felt that white people should stay out of music. So, and I went to see the Rolling Stones. Somebody gave me tickets, and I didn't get it. I said, why would you like this? So.
What about radio? What radio stations do you listen to?
Now?
Oh, then.
Well, the white stations were WOKY and WRIT, and the black stations were WAWA and NOV. And those were the stations that I listened to. And we would go to Radio Doctors, which is the record store in the inner city, and we would listen to stuff, and we'd pick up a lot of great music, really great music.
So how long did the Freeloaders continue as a band?
I think we broke up in 70, maybe 69. We've been playing since we started in 64, maybe 63. So that was a long run for a band back then.
And how many pieces were you at your height?
At our height, I think 11. We had a 5-piece horn section. And then by that point, we started getting into Chicago and Blood, Sweat, and Tears and that crap. We had a great horn section. Warren Wiegratz, who's everybody knows who Warren is, a great Milwaukee player. He was the head of the horn section, and he would write all these intricate charts out. We looked like the Buddy Rich band. We had these beautiful music stands with all the sheet music, and it wasn't quite the same. I liked the old band. I liked the band that with Tom McCutcheon, with the four of us, Pete Leshin, Jimmy Gaskell, and me. And during our breaks, we would go into the bathroom and sing, because the bathrooms had nice acoustics, and we would just sing in the bathrooms during our intermissions.
How long did you do the costuming, Freddie?
Like the hippie clothes?
No,
the fancy clothes?
No, the real Freddie and the Freeloaders, Red Skelton.
Oh, well, we only did that once in a while. Do you remember that? Did you ever see us do that? We did it once in a while. That didn't last a whole long time, but that was fun. We'd have a big wooden wheelchair on stage with us and a clothes rack, and we'd wear bathrobes and stuff.
Well, then, after '69, then when the band breaks up and you're going different directions.
Yeah.
That eventually will lead down to Jelly and being out in Los Angeles with a group of these same people that you're getting together.
Yeah.
What was going on in your musical head at that point? As you leave
when the big Freeloader band broke up, I started another little band, also called the Freeloaders, and I wrote all the music for it. So that was my songwriting, beginnings of my songwritings. And I recorded an album called You Like Bliffert, which was a pretty big seller in Milwaukee. It sold way more than the Jelly album and the Freddie Henry album and anything else I've done. And then I joined Theater X for a while. And then I joined the Hound Dog Band for a little while, which I really shouldn't have been in the Hound Dog Band. They were a great country rock band, and the period before I was in it was really good. Kappa sort of talked them into hiring me, because I put on...
this on the phone when we first started talking about the reunion, and nobody else agrees with you on that. You stand alone in this stance.
Well, I'm right and they're wrong. They were a pure country rock band. They did Birds, they did all that stuff, which clearly was not my forte. I wasn't a very good singer back then. I really don't think I added much to that band. I mean, I really diluted the real band that they had. I liked being in it. I liked the guys a lot. We did some fun stuff, but they were way better before I got in it. And you can quote me on that. And then I went to LA and played with a lot of these guys and hooked up with Amy Madigan and Jesse Rowe, and we were discovered in a club and by the vice president of Electro Asylum, and he really liked us a lot. We went to his house. He came to see us at a club. We were over, quit playing at 2. He said, come on over to my house and play me the rest of your songs. So we played until 6 in the morning, the songs that we had written. And he kept us, after every song, he said, I can't believe you guys aren't signed. So he signed us. And
who was that?
When that was
who was it?
Chuck Plotkin,
Okay.
who I had dinner, I had breakfast with him and Amy Madigan and my youngest daughter Katie and Rich Markey a few years ago, 4 years ago. And I said, well, so Chuck, what have you been doing since Jelly? And he says, well, I've been with Bruce Springsteen for 20 years and Bob Dylan and Bette Midler, and so he's big. And he was a gem. Just loved him. Everything I did out there I loved. And then I hooked up, Al Cooper came to one of my gigs, and he heard the Jelly album. He bought the Jelly album. He said he bought the Jelly album on the sole pretext that it was the ugliest album cover he had ever seen. And but he really liked my voice, and he came to see me play one time, and he really liked me. So I knew he was interested in me, and I did my homework on him. I listened to everything that he had done, and I hated everything he did, but no one else wanted me, so I said, okay, Al, let's do a record. So for a year, we worked together, and he was my brother out there. When Sue and I, when Sue was pregnant with Emily, our oldest daughter, Al was the first guy I told, and he just was so happy for us. So Al and I got along just famously. And through him I met all these great players, and it was really a great experience. And now he still calls me every 5 years or so to say hello, or I want to record one of your songs, or can I do this? Ricky Nelson recorded one of my songs that Al produced. That's pretty cool. That's really cool. So
what brought you back to Milwaukee then?
Well, Sue and I were married, and we had one child, Emily, and I wasn't making any money in music anymore, and it was time to raise a family. And the lumber business was, I knew I could get a job there, and so that's what we did. And we just did the family. We had the 3 kids, and then in 86, I had been writing a musical called Sweeping the Clouds Away, and finished that. It was a rhythm and blues gospel musical, and we produced that in 86, I think, and then 87 I did the soundtrack, and then after that I recorded a couple more CDs here. So, and I'm more active now musically than I have been in a while. I have the Bliff tones. So.
Bliff tones are very active. When you look back on it, do you think that the Times produced the same kind of musical scene that we had on the East Side and Shorewood, the North Shore, in a lot of places, the Clevelands, the Detroits?
I don't know, but I bet that's the case. I don't know why Milwaukee would be unique. And every musician you talk to in Los Angeles is from some town in the Midwest, and they all had stories like that.
But what was it about the Times that incubated that talent and that passion?
For Milwaukee?
Well, from Milwaukee, that's your experience.
Boredom? I don't know. I don't know. Shorewood, I think, was particularly a great place. And it was nice because, well, my little clan, we were all different because we only listened to black music, so that set us apart from everybody else, and that eventually made us popular. But I don't know. Sure, it was the time. Music was fairly new. Rock and roll was fairly new. And God, it was exciting. But, it was a natural gravitation for it. I don't think Milwaukee was much different than anywhere else.
When you started with the Freeloaders, had Motown emerged yet?
No.
Were you listening to Jackie Wilson?
Yeah.
Sam Cooke?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Major Lance, the Chicago band?
Yeah, in Milwaukee you had a lot of the Chicago, the Curtis Mayfield influence, and to this day I'm very influenced by the Impressions. great music. Motown was great. But when we started before Motown, the rhythm and blues was more raw and more fun, less polished, more accessible. But Motown was just a growth out of that. But every major city in the country had its own style of rhythm and blues, which flourished in the 60s and early 70s. I didn't really much care for the 70s rhythm and blues, Earth, Wind and Fire and that kind of stuff I didn't get. But the early stuff, great. And of course you had James Brown, who was just insanely good. I mean, these are very unique artists.
His first live at the Apollo album was really
great.
Extraordinary.
Great. Pure Dynamite is the best one.
Yeah.
Yeah. And when he was on the Tammy Show, we went to see the Tammy Show. Did you guys see that?
Yeah.
We saw that right when it came out, and and again you had the Rolling Stones and Jan and Dean and all this, but then and then you had James Brown, and there was just what's better.
Yeah, that was out of distribution for years and years, and
Yeah.
it's just come back.
But it's not the same. It's not. No. There was more James Brown in the movie. James Brown did 4 songs in the movie, and they cut out "Prisoner of Love" in the new version. And "Prisoner of Love" is just great. But you can see it on YouTube.
Okay. So what does this weekend mean for you coming back?
It's just great to see the guys.
Because you continue on. You and Ed have continued to play Milwaukee audiences for many years now.
Yeah, but
Some of these guys are coming back who haven't seen them for 40 years.
yeah.
Thereabouts.
I love these guys. I mean, when you play in a band with somebody, you become brothers. I mean, if I never saw Sam Friedman until we were 80 years old, it would be fine. It would be the same. Mark, it's great. Mark came I did a gig Sunday, and Mark and Sam and Ed came, and Mark sang with us. It's great. So it means a lot. I'm thrilled. We're all thrilled. We're all absolutely thrilled to do this.
Okay.
All right.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for coming and doing this.
Thank you.